Hey y'all. Hey B Tim. Hey Wing Zero. What's up? It's been a while since I've been on here. By the way, I haven't gone on camera in like the longest time because ever since I put black wallpaper behind me, for some reason, when I turn my camera on, my face turns white and it like cannot like figure out the coloring of my face, I guess because the background's so dark. So I've just given up. I think I have to change like the white balance or whatever it's called, but I just haven't put the time into it. So just an FYI if anyone's like, hey, good egg. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I keep forgetting today's St. Patrick's Day. Um, Sorry, I got sidetracked. I was looking through my email and it said some lady posted this picture on my work's Google business thing, and it's some random lady like doing like the rock out sign. And I have no idea who she is, so it distracted me. But anyway, I was supposed to have a guest on tonight. So I've recently joined a local podcast. Hello, Marion and Bays. Um, I joined a local podcast called Keystone Cold Cases. And my friend Janelle from there was supposed to come on tonight, but then her friend ended up having a baby. So I was like, I'm just going to come on myself. And we'll do another case another day. Hey Sarah, what's up, girl? Uh Sending hugs from the UK. Aw. What time is it over there? It's a big time difference, huh? I'm so not ready for tomorrow to be Monday. So what do y'all think of all these latest updates? I'm just even more confused than I've ever been confused about this case. I was always like kind of like in the middle. Like I don't really like I think if she did hit him, um she did like it was an accident, and she was really drunk and whatever, which I still believe is second degree. So I've always thought like that, that's definitely a possibility. And then I've always wondered, like, could it have been a plow driver or something else, or I don't know. But I do think um there is, I guess, reasonable doubt. So FBI thought he wasn't hit with the car. Why wouldn't they tell? Well, I don't know. I'm not really sure why they wouldn't tell the judge to drop the charges. I mean, that's kind of why, like, I'm confused about why, if now there's a internal affairs investigation. I suppose that maybe Proctor could have just been lying about it. Maybe like if it has nothing to do with the case, maybe to protect kids, like, them saying Colin Albert was there or something, maybe he did it. I don't know. That's what I'm confused about. I don't really know why he would lie about his association with him. Yeah. Well, yeah. I wouldn't. I think there's just like if I was a juror, I would have a hard time convicting, like saying it was murder. Maybe there's a lot of press on a cop, they do that. So the only thing, like, I guess, which is confusing to me, is that everybody was saying they know each other, and he kept saying no, like, you know, I guess, that was the first day they were formally introduced and all this, and then he goes on the grand jury and says that he was diminishing their relationship. Only the defense lawyer said he lied. Well, he's admitted that he's diminished their relationship, I guess, so. Hey, Linda. But I guess the only thing that kind of, I guess, makes me wonder about, I've spent the entire weekend just looking over documents for hours. And let me see if I can find it real quick. So there's a letter from Michael Morrissey, and or D.A. Morrissey, isn't his first name Michael yet? He sends a letter to the Office of Professional. I'm gonna pull it up. I have it saved somewhere. Basically, he tries to say that the investigation is an abuse of power and that it's not warranted, and he wants them to like shut it down. I'm gonna read it. The Office of Professional Responsibility. Hey, devil, I know. He diminished the relationship. They have said so many ridiculous statements that are super. Yeah. So I guess he sends a letter to the DA, sends a letter to the Office of Professional Responsibility. And he says, I write to formally request that an ongoing investigation being conducted by the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Massachusetts be examined by the Office of Professional Responsibility. Should the investigation continue, that it be transferred to another office without history of conflict, bias, and abuse of prosecutorial discretion as outlined below. The Norfolk District Attorney's Office has undertaken an extensive investigation into the facts and circumstances of the death of John O'Keefe in Canton, Massachusetts on January 29th, 2022. The case has been systematically making its way through the Norfolk Superior Court with ongoing discovery still active and open, including motions under advisement and motions not yet heard. The defendant, through counsel, has been raising specious issues of a third-party culprit and complaints of witness and police misconduct as they attempt to confuse by offering not different interpretations of Commonwealth statements, evidence, and positions, but inventing them out of whole cloth. No actual substantiated evidence supporting the police misconduct or any federal violations have been identified by the defendant, the district attorney's office, or the Massachusetts Superior Court during the ongoing discovery process. Approximately 3 weeks ago, multiple state witnesses who have been brought before the state grand jury notified the Norfolk District Attorney's Office that they were contacted by the FBI and subsequently received subpoenas to appear before a federal grand jury. Shortly after those notifications to the Norfolk District Attorney's Office, Joshua Levy, first assistant in the Boston office of the United States Attorney's Office, contacted Norfolk First Assistant District Attorney Lynn Beeland to suggest that they were conducting an investigation that may involve a number of witnesses in the Commonwealth First Reed murder case. At that time, Attorney Beeland expressed some concerns about both the jurisdiction and the timing of any actions being taken by the United States Attorney's Office, as they could imprudently impact the ongoing murder prosecution of Karen Reed. Based on the collective experience of several of my colleague Massachusetts district attorneys and a formal federal prosecutor, it appears to be unprecedented for the federal government to step into the middle of an ongoing state murder prosecution promptly only by inflammatory and ethically dubious defense strategy, which we know that the defense was the ones who, brought it up and got it started. Hold on, where was I? In the conversation with First Assistant Norfolk District Attorney Lynn Beeland, Assistant United States Attorney Joshua Levy declined to identify what jurisdiction the federal government had in this murder case in what appears to be a highly unusual and possibly abusive exercise of power. Attorney Levy, I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm just going to say Levy, indicated that the U.S. Attorney's Office was still proceeding ahead with an investigation that would involve individuals who were active participants in events and or witnesses in the state case. Attorney Beeland reminded AUSA Joshua Levy that any statements and or testimony taken in such an investigation that pertain to any of the witnesses in the ongoing state murder trial may create an ongoing obligation for state prosecutors to provide defense with access to all information and statements gathered or recorded as a result of the federal investigation. The United States Attorney's Office offered the opinion that you can't turn over information that you don't have. This position leaves the state authorities potentially unable to meet the constitutional mandate expressed in Brady v. Maryland and corresponding Massachusetts state rules. Since that call concluded, we have confirmed that witnesses have testified before the grand jury. Rule 6 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure allows that under certain compelling circumstances, information may be provided to all counsel, including those not before the federal grand jury. Recent court filings and statements by defense counsel in the Reed matter suggest that the defense attorneys were the source of the initial complaint, and allegations prompting this action by the U.S. Attorney's Office, see Exhibit C, report in the Boston Herald. Reed's defense counsel recent court filings raise out of thin air an apparently purposeful misstatement of fact, unsupported claims of a cover-up by investigators and witnesses, including municipal, state, and federal law enforcement. As shown in the attached documents, many or all of these unsupported allegations can be vetted and reviewed by the judges of the Massachusetts Superior Court during the discovery and motion sessions or available appellate review. I am unaware and strongly doubt any prosecutor or state police misconduct in the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. The only allegations to that effect have been in unsupported news claims or defense filings that had not even. Hey Pamela, thank you for becoming a member. Hey Pecan. Sorry if I'm not paying attention to the chat because I'm reading. It's a long letter, but I promise this is the only long one. But I just wanted to read the back and forths between the letter because I thought they were important, because they do point out where it began and some other things. So, and if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, basically in the most recent court hearing, Alan Jackson has said that the FBI conducted their own investigation, that they uncovered text messages between the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, and his sister, where I think 10 days before John O'Keefe was found dead, he was making plans to have Julie Albert babysit his child. Yay, a year. Thank you. Hey, Jeremiah. And then I guess on the day, I think it was the day that Karen was arrested, she also sent him another text saying that that Julie wants to give him a gift and when this is all over. And then he says, oh no, give the gift to my wife, like Elizabeth or whatever. And then he states that when Michael Proctor was in front of a grand jury, he admitted that he diminished his relationship with the Alberts. They also said that there was a accident reconstructionist that the FBI hired independently that came to the conclusion that had 3 PhDs, and I think they said he had 3 PhDs, and that he came to the conclusion that John O'Keefe wasn't hit by the car, and that the first officer on the scene, Lank, I think his first name's Michael, was friends with Chris Albert, I believe it was. I actually found the court documents for the bar fight. Well, they said back in the day, they got into like a bar fight together, and that they were friends as well. So they were just trying to point out that there was like interpersonal relationships and things like that. And then I also saw that it was mentioned that supposedly the DA gave Higgins and Brian Albert permission to destroy their phones. I remember why, I don't remember them saying it in court the first time, but I remember going back and I do think that it's briefly mentioned, but I feel like I'm missing something, but I think that's it. Well, anyway, so I was looking through all the documents, and then there was letters between the DA claiming why he thinks it's unfair that they're being investigated. He sends a letter to the Office of what is it? I just said it. Office of Professional Responsibility, to basically look into it to see if they could shut it down, because he thought it was an abuse of power. And then he explains that there is some conflict, like inter-conflict between the U.S. state's attorney, which I'm almost getting to that point. So back to what I was reading. I lost where I was. Give me a second. Okay, here it goes. It raises question why the apparatus of the DOJ would intervene, even as such issues are still being assessed by the Justice of the Massachusetts Superior Court. Thank you, Jen. That's okay. You're not that late. I just started. Without some additional impetus on the part of the United States Attorney's Office, without dismissing the important role of the DOJ in the investigating allegations of police misconduct and federal violations, we bring to your attention what appears to be additional concerns concerning motive conflict or appearance of conflict, potential bias by the Office of the United States Attorney for Massachusetts, which might explain these unprecedented proceedings. So, he explains the conflict they have with them, and he feels like it's an abuse of power and that they're kind of like doing it on purpose and taking it out on them. So he says, I predicate the following information with the fact that it has been the policy of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office during my 12-year tenure as District Attorney to maintain a close working relationship with the United States Attorney for Massachusetts. Notable in that relationship was the cooperation of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office in the prosecution of a 35-year-old murder case that was committed in Chatham, Mass., which involved Whitey Bulger Gang in the United States versus Fleming. The Norfolk District Attorney's Office had statutory jurisdiction to pursue the case, but in the interest of cooperation, acceded to the request of the United States Attorney at the time to allow federal prosecutors to proceed with the case. As a result of that agreement, the Norfolk District Attorney's Office and Massachusetts State Police assigned to the Norfolk District Attorney's Office worked closely with the U.S. Attorney's Office on the case. During this period, AUSA Dustin Chow, without nexus to that prosecution, asked a Massachusetts State Police detective involved in the matter if he had any kind of damaging information on the district attorney, first assistant, or the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. I don't know how to say this, but this Sponte question was not without context. Laura Chow, Dustin's wife, had been an employee of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office prior to the case mentioned above. Not long into her tenure, it became apparent to her supervisors that she required more seasoning and legal experience if she was to succeed in the Superior Court role. She was offered the chance to gain more trial experience in the district court without any loss of compensation. Instead, she resigned and filed an ethics violations complaint with the Massachusetts Board of Bar Overseers against the first assistant in Norfolk District Attorney's Office. The complaint before the board was summarily dismissed in short order. Laura Chow was instead cited for a violation of her ethical obligation to provide accurate address information for her practice. Long after separation, she was misrepresenting her address as the Norfolk DA's office. I began composing this letter well before the May 17th, 2023 publication of the DOJ Office of the Inspector General report, which has apparently prompted the resignation of the current United States Attorney of the District of Massachusetts. My attention is drawn to several portions of Section 2, particularly as they pertain to the weaponization of the U.S. State's Attorney's Office for personal, political, and retributive purposes. Page 46. Hayden will regret the day he did this to you. Watch. We asked Rollins. This is like in quotes, like he's quoting something. We asked Rollins whether her disclosure was retribution for the wrongs she believed Hayden had committed. Additionally, we determined that the days after Hayden prevailed in the September 6th primary election, Rollins sought to damage Hayden's reputation. The evidence demonstrated she used her position as U.S. Attorney in an ultimately unsuccessful effort to create the impression publicly that DOJ was or would be investigating Hayden for public corruption. These DOJ findings and questions reinforce my belief that the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Massachusetts must be removed from whatever investigation is being conducted into the Reed matter. I believe that a reasonable person would conclude that the same type of tactics are being employed against the Norfolk District Attorney's Office in the Reed investigation. Yeah, Jen's one of our Massachusetts people. The outgoing United States Attorney has made no secret of her personal animosity towards me, including repeated crude, outlandish, personal, and professional attacks against me in the media during her time as Suffolk County District Attorney. The head of the Public Corruption Unit has raised the specter of personal retaliation for his wife's departure from the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. The public has a right to a U.S. Attorney's Office that is fair and unbiased as it executes its responsibilities. So he believes that, they don't like him and that, they are unbiased against, or they are biased against him. And he wants it to be transferred to, I guess, like an unbiased party. The head of the Public Corruption Unit has raised the specter of personal retaliation for his wife's departure. Oh, I said that right. The public has the right to a U.S. Attorney's Office that is fair and unbiased as it executes its responsibilities. Weaponizing the U.S. State's Attorney's Office to conduct an unprecedented intervention into an open state murder case appears to raise the same concerns it outlined in the DOJ's report. I submit that the pattern of using the USAO for personal purposes established in Report 23071, coupled with the obvious conflict of a USA Chow, make it impossible to conclude that a fair evaluation of the unprecedented Reed intervention can be conducted by any party within the Massachusetts office. It is impossible to determine how far the tentacles of bias have spread out from the chief of the relevant unit and the titular head of the office. I formally request that an impartial federal official unaffiliated with the U.S. Attorney's Office for Massachusetts review and investigate the steps and actions that are being taken by current members of the Massachusetts office, exploring this apparent bias and whether it predisposed them to abuse their prosecutorial discretion in this matter. In the unlikely case that an impartial review finds that the DOJ investigation into the Karen Reed matter is appropriate, even before the issues at hand have been vetted by the Norfolk Superior Court judge hearing the case, I request that the investigation be reassigned from parties with clearly stated and documented bias against the members of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office to attorneys entirely outside of the office of the United States Attorney for Massachusetts. So, yes, we do love her crazy mass self. So he writes that. They also request that all of the findings get sent to them, obviously, because now that they are aware, since, when he sent the letters, at that point, they were aware of the grand jury proceedings, and they couldn't withhold exculpatory evidence, so they needed that evidence sent to them right away. So he does also send a letter asking to Joshua Levy to have all the information. And then they answer him, the Office of Professional Responsibility, and they basically say, like, we received your letter and we are going to pass this on to Jay Macklin, and he will so they said they're going to pass it on to. They forwarded a complaint to the Executive Office for United States Attorneys for whatever action it deems appropriate. Further inquiry regarding that issue may be directed to EOUSA General Counsel Jay Macklin. So they forwarded it to Jay Macklin, and then Jay Macklin responds, and he actually answers Lynn Beeland because she sends letters asking for updates, and he says, "This responds to your June 21st, 2023 letter concerning your request for a recusal of the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Massachusetts from the pending State Office of Professional Responsibility. Informed you that they had referred your May 18th letter to my office for whatever action I deem appropriate. Consistent with the terms of the referral from OPR, I contacted Acting United States Attorney Joshua Levy based on my understanding from that discussion with USA Levy. His office has a very different opinion of the circumstances in the case than as presented in Mr. Marcy's letter. His office has not reached any official determination whether prosecution is warranted, but they believe it is essential to continue their investigation given the information of which they are aware. At this time, we see no basis for a recusal in the investigation." So they basically tell them that, they see it from a very different point of view. And I'm not really sure if they mean referring to, like, the whole bias issue they have, or in regards to the investigation, like that they've found something, or, But if people don't know the whole background, basically, I'll break it down. I clicked the wrong thing. Hold on. So in a nutshell, John O'Keefe and his girlfriend, Karen Reed, they go to the Waterfall Bar and they meet up. While they're there, they go to see a band and they meet up with Jen McCabe, who is a longtime friend of John O'Keefe, and her brother-in-law, Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, his wife, Brian Higgins, who's an ATF agent. I can't remember who else was all at the bar. But anyway, they get invited back to Brian Albert's house on, I think it's 34 Fairview Road, and for a party, an after party. It's actually Brian Albert's son's birthday. He texts Jen. He says where to. She gives him the address, and Karen Reed drives over there and parks on the street, but near the driveway. Jen McCabe says, "Hey," she tells him where to park, and tells him he can come in. And then she starts saying, "Hey, where are you?" Because he's not answering her, and she keeps texting him, "Are you there?" Blah blah blah. She says she sees them pull up and then drive away, so she assumes that they go home. Later in the night, or the night, the whole night rolls around, everybody leaves. Karen wakes up in the morning. John's up there. She's freaking out. His niece is freaking out. She calls Jen McCabe. That she goes to pick her up, and then they go pick up another woman, Carrie, and they drive over to Brian Albert's house, where they find John on the lawn in the snow, dead. They call 911. Karen starts doing CPR. Apparently, she's heard saying, "Did I hit him?" or "I hit him, I hit him." She says, "Did I hit him, or could I have hit him?" The police show up. I think Lank, the guy, he's first on the scene. Now they just recently claimed he was longtime friends with Chris Albert. Oh, that's right. I got the police report for that, so I'll show it to you. Second. And then Karen basically gets arrested for murder, and they charge her with second degree. Now, second degree in Massachusetts could be because she left the scene, not because even if it wasn't I guess if you hit somebody and you leave the scene, it would be considered second degree murder. So they charge her with second degree murder. So down the road, supposedly some PI named Steve Scanlon comes forward and suggests that a fight had broke out in the home and that John O'Keefe was beat up. Now, that guy totally retracted his statement and said that his words were twisted, that he didn't exactly say the things he said. And that's where this whole story came up, that John O'Keefe was beaten inside the house, and that the dog, Chloe, Brian Albert's German Shepherd, attacked him. And that's why he has all these, he had all these cuts on his arm. Apparently, he also had a cocktail glass in his hand, which broke, which a lot of people speculate, the scratches are from the cocktail glass. So, the dog was given away, and nobody knows where this dog is. Apparently, they claim that, I forget what the initial claim was why they got rid of the dog, but it was that she was aggressive towards other dogs, I believe, was the issue. But then it ended up coming out that the dog had attacked two people and put them in the hospital. And so they got rid of the dog, which was looked at as a sign of them trying to, I guess, cover up a fight or, whatever happened. Also, Brian Albert, they had the basement floors redone, which also was suspect, became, them saying that they were trying to cover it up. And then I believe they sold the home. And they did check the clothes for canine DNA, I believe. So the clothes that he was wearing, where the holes in his clothes were that the dog had bit, they tested the clothes and no canine DNA were found. But I do believe the actual tissue samples of the John O'Keefe's tissue samples have pretty much disappeared. Like they were lost somewhere. And now it's basically the town is somewhat divided, where some people think, yeah, definitely could be a red flag for sure. Or, couldn't be it might not be anything, and it might be, but they have, I've heard, but I can't confirm. But there's a lot of rumors that the FBI had gone to that house and they had looked there. So I'm sure if they had found anything, it would come out. I don't know if there was a bunch of other stuff that was found, because they only had 10 minutes to go over things at the last motion hearing. So they only said so much, but they did file for second. Trying to find the screenshots for where they basically filed. They put in a motion to get Kevin Albert's, Brian Higgins, and Brian Albert's phone information. Oh, and Berkowitz is listed in there too. A Rule 17 motion has been filed for Brian Albert, Kevin Albert, Ken Berkowitz, and Brian Higgins. So Ken Berkowitz was the chief. Kevin Albert worked directly under him. Brian Albert was the homeowner, and he was also a cop. And Brian Higgins was an ATF agent who was there. Also, one thing that also was mentioned at the court hearing that I did miss was that they had, okay, so apparently Brian Albert, I would imagine Higgins said he was, like, he went in at, okay, that night, Brian Higgins clocked himself in at like 1:30 in the morning to do paperwork. And I believe Brian Albert was supposed to be asleep by 2:22 a.m., but they had found that there was actually a phone call between Brian Albert and Brian Higgins at 2:22 a.m. And then the other thing that came out at court was that the FBI had gone over the phone records. And I mean, this is probably the biggest thing that everybody talks about is Jen McCabe Googled at 2:27 in the morning, I believe it was, how long to die in the cold. At first, it was said that she had opened a tab on her phone and had, searched something else. And then in the morning, when she was with Karen Reed, she said Karen Reed had told her, Google how long to die in the cold, like after they had found John. So she does Google at 6 something in the morning, how long to die in the cold, but spells it differently than the first time, and then does it again and spells it exactly how it was spelled at 2:27 in the morning. So it was being said that she had possibly opened a previous internet tab on her phone. And because, like, how when you use your phone, you look stuff up, and then when you go into the internet, you go back to an old website that you had already looked up, and you typed in the new stuff that you want to look up. So they were saying it registered at 2:27 in the morning because she had already gone online and looked at something at that time, and it like time-stamped her previous search as this one. But now the FBI is saying that she did Google how long to die in the cold at 2:27 in the morning, which the prosecution didn't deny it, but they said, like, why are we still talking about this? But I do think that is kind of important because Why would somebody need to Google that at 2:27 in the morning? So I guess it'll come down really to like celebrate experts at the trial of, did she really Google this at that time, or was it some tab that was open? But that's the argument right now, and the FBI is saying they confirmed that she did Google that at 2:27 in the morning. So I think that's going to be probably the biggest like piece of reasonable doubt. I think for me it is, at least. Like, if she did Google that at 2:27 in the morning, it doesn't really make sense to me. So that is probably like the number one thing that I'm mostly like skeptical about, I would say. Um and then after all this, it was announced by Internal Affairs that Michael Proctor is under investigation. But they did say that he still is on duty and like has his job, like he's not suspended or anything. So yeah, Linda, it's very confusing. So just to make it a little easier for you, it's basically what the argument is coming down to is, did all of these cops work together to hide a murder, or did Karen Reed actually murder John O'Keefe? So did John O'Keefe get in a fight with a bunch of cops and they covered it up in the house and blamed it on Karen, or did Karen Reed hit him drunk and not remember, or even remember? Like, that's basically the two arguments that it comes down to. But what came out in court is that Michael Proctor has claimed that he was formally introduced to these people when all this happened. Like, that was the first time he was formally introduced to them. But he diminished. He admitted that he diminished their relationship, and he actually knew the people in the home more than, I guess, he claimed that he did. Like, he didn't just meet them. And he's the lead investigator. So this is really probably going to be kind of an issue for them at court, because if you're a jury member and you hear that the lead investigator, instead of recusing himself on a case because it involved people that he knew well, he didn't, and kept investigating, especially because it's becoming an argument of police corruption. So it's like, okay, well, why didn't this guy just admit in the beginning that that the relationship was more than he made it out to be? So we'll see. But yeah, pretty much the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, his sister is like best friends with Julie Albert. And there's been pictures on social media of Colin Albert and some of the Alberts at Julie Albert's wedding, and Michael Proctor's mom said like they're like second family to them. So he at first said that he didn't know them like that, and then when the FBI had their own grand jury, he admitted that he diminished the relationship. So I think in trial, like that, that will definitely be a big hurdle for them, just because, I mean, jury wise, with a jury, that's going to be difficult because he's the lead investigator, and you want to trust the lead investigator. So I think that will be a difficult issue for them. And oh my gosh, for some reason my space bar got stuck, and it was scrolling down the screen while I was trying to look at stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of people involved, but and there's a lot of connections. Like the homeowner, Brian Albert, he's a cop. Brian Higgins is a cop. Chief Berkowitz is he's the chief, and he was directly over Brian Albert's brother, Kevin, I believe. He lived not far. I think he was the one who lived like right up the street. Like there's a lot of connections with law enforcement. Um so they really didn't they only had 10 minutes to talk, so I don't really know what else they found in the FBI investigation, but I do think if they had found anything super like major that they would step in, but they're letting the trial, go on, so we'll see. Um but we'll see if their findings are enough to create more reasonable doubt, I guess. But I used to have like a map of all the people. I don't know what happened to it, but I'll have to find it for you and post it on my community post, because I do have a like a map somewhere where it names everybody and shows like all the connections. But anyway, so shortly after all this is announced at the motion hearing, the Massachusetts State Police Internal Affairs Unit announces they are investigating a police detective for a potential violation of department policy in connection with the Karen Reed murder case. 25 investigates learned of the internal affairs investigation Wednesday, one day after a hearing for Karen Reed, the woman accused in the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Her defense argued that Detective Michael Proctor was not truthful with his relationship with people he identified as witnesses in the case. According to the defense, Proctor admitted this to a federal grand jury. The defense also says text messages analyzed in the federal investigation revealed that one of the other witnesses offered to buy Proctor a gift when the case against Reed was over. So, like, that's probably the biggest deal in the situation, like the gift thing, because police, even though he didn't really accept it, he said, give it to my wife, but like anyone offering gifts, you're supposed to didn't like not accept any gifts from anyone. I mean, we don't know what the gift could be. I think their like rule is anything over $50. Like it was just her saying, I want to give you a gift. But then everybody's like, what does this gift mean? So who invited him to the party in the first place? Jennifer McCabe. All right, so the homeowner was Brian Albert, right? He is a cop. His wife is Nicole Albert. They're the homeowners. And then his sister-in-law, Jennifer McCabe, invited John O'Keefe. Now, Jennifer and John O'Keefe were longtime friends. Hey, Southern Mimi. Hey, Butterfly Kisses. That's okay. So, Jennifer McCabe and John O'Keefe were longtime friends before Karen Reed even came around. She invites him to the party. She's also the one who Googled how long to die in the cold at 2:27 in the morning. So she invites him to the party. Karen and John pull up to the home around 12:30 a.m. So we'll say right after midnight, around 12:30 a.m. Jen McCabe says she saw them pull off and he never came to the door. And there is text messages of her saying, hey, where are you? Blah, blah, blah. Now, Karen claims he went into the house. This is Karen's story. That he went into the house, that she told him, go inside and ask if it's okay that I come, because, she felt like she didn't get invited, that, they invited him. So she claims she just told him, hey, go in and make sure it's okay if I come in. So she claims he got out of the car and walked into the house. They claim he never came in. So anyway, she claims she gets annoyed because she's waiting 10 minutes. He doesn't come out. I guess on New Year's they got into a fight where he got really drunk and kind of ruined the night. So she was already annoyed and she leaves. She's like, F this, I'm going home to bed, whatever. So here we are now at 4 something in the morning. Karen wakes up and John's not there. She sends him a bunch of mean messages like, "Where the hell are you?" Blah, blah, blah. And then she calls Jennifer McCabe because that's, his friend that invited them. She calls Jen, like, "Hey, where's John? I don't know where John is," blah, blah, blah. She goes to pick up Jen. Then they go back and pick up a woman named Carrie Roberts. And then they all drive over to Brian Albert's house. And that's where they find John dead on the lawn. He died from hypothermia and blunt force trauma. So he had like 2 black eyes. He had a big laceration on the back of his head that was like 3 inches wide. He had bruises or marks on the top of his hands. He had all these scratches down his arm, like deep gouges down his arm. So when they pull up, yeah, definitely need some yarn and push pins. Let me see if I can show you guys pictures of each person so you have an idea. I'm gonna see if I can find like a map because I know, what, I think they had one on. Give me a second. I think they had one on Court TV where they showed all the connections. Hey, hey, how are you, Chronicles? It's a lot to take in because it's a lot of people. But I'm gonna see if I can find the video where he does show it because I know I watched it and he shows like a little like map kinda because hold on. So anyway, back to where I was. They Carrie Roberts, Jen McCabe, and all them, they pull up. Karen sees John, and then they get out. She starts giving him CPR. She tells Jen supposedly to Google how long to die in the cold. And several people hear her say, I hit him. I hit him. All right, hold on. I'll just show this clip, I guess. It doesn't have the darn map on this one. That's what I'm trying to find for you. I might just have to show everyone individually. All right. This is Brian Albert. He owns the home. Let me show Jen McCabe real quick. I don't know if I'll be able to find a picture of Nicole Albert, his wife, but this is Jennifer McCabe. This is Jennifer McCabe. This is Brian Albert's sister-in-law. So she's the one who invited John. Let me show you John and Karen, which I'm sure you've probably seen them, but this is John O'Keefe. He's the victim. And then this is Karen Reed. She's the one being charged, his girlfriend, basically being charged with second-degree murder. Now, she was drunk that night for sure. She definitely had, I believe, even in the morning when they took her blood alcohol level, that it was like she still had a blood alcohol level. So that's his girlfriend. And then Ryan Higgins, I don't know if I'll be able to find him, but And Brian Higgins was there. He's an ATF agent who's friends with them. Um, he happened to go into work that night at 1:30 in the morning to do some paperwork. So that's been like, I guess people say like claiming that was like shady. Oh wait, I didn't show Michael Proctor. Can I find him? I'll just show this picture of him. I have the article up. So that's Michael Proctor right there. He is the lead investigator who they claim diminished his relationship with the Alberts. So his sister, Courtney, is like really, really, really good friends with Julie Albert. Like they've, there's pictures of him at like family parties and Julie's son Colin and at his sister's wedding. So his sister is really good friends with them, and they have been in the same place. And he admits to a grand jury that he diminished their relationship. So I'm not sure to what extent really, but yeah. And I think what really is going to be like the part that he may have a difficult time with is the gift thing, because they're not supposed to accept gifts, but I think the rule is that gifts above $50, and they never really say what kind of gift. Like Julie, on the day that Karen was arrested, she says, when this is all over, I want to give him a gift. But they don't really say what kind of gift or what she's talking about. I know some people have said online it was just a hug, but I'm not sure where that even came from. And a lot of people are like, well, why would she give him a gift when it's all over? And personally, I think maybe because he's kept Colin Albert out of it. Although they claim that Colin was at the house earlier that night, but he was gone by that point. So I don't think it'll be dismissed either, to be honest. Like I don't think it'll be dismissed, but I am curious to hear like what else the FBI has found. Like I'm if it has nothing to do, like if um you know if it has nothing, why he diminished his relationship with them, if it has nothing to do with the actual case, like I'm wondering if maybe it was, to protect the minors like Colin or whatever and keep him out of the investigation or something like that. But I'm curious to see where it will go. Also, the injuries were ruled by a lot of medical examiners. Yeah, there was a lot of different medical examiners who did rule that, but I'm curious to see like how they came up with the accident reconstruction too, like how, I guess because it wouldn't really be, that's different from the medical examiner. I wonder if they did hire their own medical examiner too. But I did hear that they actually went to the house and ripped up the floor, but that could just be like complete rumors. So they say she was in reverse and only went 16 feet at 25 miles an hour. How is that possible? I know they changed the speed at some point, but I can't remember. Like, I think they were saying she was going much faster at some point. Not much more of the 3,000-page document that defense would have disclosed it otherwise to support their motions. Yeah, I think it's going to be a battle of experts too, really. Like the Google search. I think it's going to end up being like the Google search is going to be a battle of experts, the accident reconstruction, the medical examiner, um, things like that. Like it's definitely going to come down to the experts, but I do think that um, this like internal affairs investigation stuff is not going to be helpful, but we'll see. And I'm also curious about like the phone thing, like if they're just twisting the words to that or if there's really some merit to it. Like, what do they mean by destroying their phones? Um, she went 67 feet. Okay, at 27 miles, I believe. That makes more sense than 16 feet for sure. And I'm curious about the letter where Jay Macklin says that Josh Levy has a very different account for what, like, has a very different outlook, basically. Like, when they tried to have the case dropped, or not dropped, but investigated by a different, by unbiased, like, investigated unbiased because there's bias within the U.S. state's attorney. But then he says Joshua Levy has a very different opinion on like what Morrissey said. So I'm curious if Joshua Levy is saying he has a very different opinion about the investigation or a very different opinion about the Dustin, what's his name? Dustin Chow, or the whole conflict. You know, I care. I'm trying to word things. I think once, yeah, yeah. I'm definitely interested to see how that goes. But yeah, that was probably the one thing that like really struck me is the letters between Michael Morrissey and the Office of Professional Responsibility, and where he says that Joshua Levy has a very different opinion. So I'm curious, like that makes me wonder, like, does Joshua Levy really believe that they have a case like a corruption case, or if he was just saying that in terms of like that they're the bias story. Yeah, the trial's not going to happen for like another month, I think. That's a good question. Does anyone know if the trial's going to be live? Let me look. Let me try Googling it to see if they have said anything about that, but that I'm not sure. Cameras. Anytime I try to Google if there'll be cameras in the courtroom, Karen Reed's murder trial pushed out 5 weeks as feds provide thousands of documents. I can't find anything where it says if cameras will be allowed or not. Yeah, Grant, definitely. Yeah, I would think so too. Considering like all of the hearings have been publicly broadcast, that's a good point. That I feel like at this point it'd be kind of hard for them to just be like no cameras, but I mean they always could, but who knows. And I'm interested to see what happens with the Rule 17 motions. Or the Rule 17 subpoenas. They're requesting March 20th will be the hearing on all Rule 17 motions. So I guess that's when they'll decide if they're granted, which that basically is like phone records of. So this is what they request. Defendant's motion to impound. Defendant's motion for order pursuant to Massachusetts Criminal 17, directed to Kevin Albert, Brian Higgins, Brian Albert with affidavit. Defendant's motion for order pursuant to Mass Criminal 17, directed to Kevin Albert, Brian Higgins, Brian Albert with affidavit and certificate of service. Another one directed to Brian Albert, Kenneth Berkowitz, Brian Higgins, Verizon, Sprint, and Next Gen Metro PCS with affidavit and certificate of service. The other one is pretty much says the same thing. And then the last one says directed to Massachusetts State Police Internal Affairs sections with affidavit and certificate of service. So then I guess they'll rule if she'll grant them or not. Yeah, for the records. Yeah, they want the records of the phone, of all their phones, of, I guess, the internal affairs records. But I think that Judge Beverly will have to, like, approve it first, so. I think EDB. Who's EDB? Said he was going to cover the case. So she will know. Oh, Emily. I love Emily. That would be, I hope she covers it, because I like, I know, I wish they'd wipe out top chat too. Like, who doesn't want to, who doesn't want to see the whole chat? It's kind of ridiculous that they have that, but who knows? I haven't seen any motions filed to prohibit cameras either. I hope Emily covers it, because I feel like she does a really good job, like breaking down legal stuff. Hi, Johnny. For stations. I'm looking at the documents. See this one. Oh, that was in May. Never mind. But yeah, every time where I think this case can't get any crazier, something else comes out and it just gets crazier and crazier. So we'll see if there's any merit to any of it, but she's good on the prosecution, and Melanie Little will give. I'll tell you what, though, I love a good defensive case. I don't know why. I don't know. I just get so excited over a good defense case. Because I feel like if you have a good, you got to be real good. You got to be a real good defense lawyer. And I don't know. I just love watching a good defense lawyer in action for some reason. I just think it's so interesting when somebody is a good defense lawyer. But they're like my favorite cases for, I don't know why, I just like it. I forgot, what, I was giving y'all a summary and I totally forgot where I was at. I think I explained it pretty well though, where so after they found him, she was arrested. They went back a couple of days, they found broken pieces of tail light. And then that guy, Steve Scanlon, who was a PI, put the idea out there that he was in a fight. But then the guy, Steve Scanlon, basically retracted what he said and said that his words were twisted. So he, refused to, testify for them, really. So, the Cheez-It munching, Carly. No way! I totally forgot about her, Carly. I've been really, totally locked in on the Sebastian Rogers case, too, because I'm just so... I just can't believe this kid just totally vanished without a trace, and I'm really so confused, what could have happened? So I've been deep in that hole right now, which I plan on probably doing the live about him next. And I've also been deep in that. What's his name? Riley Strain? Riley? The kid who went to the bar. I mean, this story is like a tale as old as time. It happens so often where a young kid goes to a bar and gets drunk, gets kicked out, and just ends up in a river. I mean, we had a kid who was from my area. Oh my gosh, I can't think of his name right now. Well, we had a bunch of people from our area that it happened to, but it was on Thanksgiving Eve. Hold on, I'm gonna tell you his name in a second. Can't think of his name, but it's crazy to me just how many kids go out drinking and get drunk and end up in a river. It's like insane. I just I can't believe Shane Montgomery. That was a kid from my area. He was at a bar on Thanksgiving Eve and they kicked him out and he ended up in the river. And it's just crazy to me. They found a body by the river. They did find one of his. I seen that. They found his credit card by the river, which is so weird. A group of civilian searchers are claiming they found Riley Strain's debit card near the water in the area his phone last pinged. I do not know who this group is, and I'm not vouching for them, but the photo of the card appears authentic. Here, I'll show you the picture. I know. I can't believe it either. I'll show you the picture. That's supposedly his card. It says his name, so. But it's so sad watching all of the tapes where he's just like stumbling all over, and to think like not one person felt the urge to get out of their cars and like help him, you know? He's just it's awful. And he was with a bunch of friends and he just like left all of them. Like they left him on his own. I don't know. My friends weren't like that. Like I guess it's different with guys, but like with females, if like in my friend group, if a female was like super inebriated and all over the place, like the guys would make sure that she got home okay. But it just seems like it's different when it comes to men though, because um it's not the same, you know what I mean? LB's cousin went missing and was found in the river. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I know who LB is. I saw her. She covers some of like the teen mom stuff and things like that, I believe. Oh, the parents identified the card as his. No way. Yeah, and I've in that Madeline Soto case, that guy is awful. Like, I don't wish death on anybody, but that guy, yeah, like awful. But I just can't believe they haven't found this kid yet by just by all of the camera footage they have. They basically followed his trail all the way to. It doesn't sound good though that he was they found his card by the river. Yeah. We did too, Lori. Like I haven't heard anything else about the Elijah View case. Last I heard was that they were looking at a car. Like it looked like an old Maxima that had like rust all over it. They were like looking into a car they believe was like possibly part of the crime. And that's the last that he was sent to that guy's house to be punished. And I thought I heard that that guy was like Elijah's like bio dad's cousin or brother or something. The last article, there's one on the 12th that said searches remain ongoing and the reward climbed to 40,000 as public and police continue to quest for answers in the Two Rivers area, but still, police said Elijah View has not been found. Much has unfolded in the weeks since he was reported missing. Charges were filed, new details on what happened prior to his disappearance were revealed, and a vehicle of interest was identified. He had been at home with his mother's boyfriend, Jesse Vang, at the time. Vang called police February 20th and reported him missing, telling officers he had taken a nap. She told police she had left her 3-year-old with Vang because she wanted to teach her son to be a man, and she intended to pick him up on the 23rd. Prosecutors told court last week they had evidence that his mother left the 3-year-old unattended for at least an hour on February 16th as she and Vang traveled to other locations throughout Manitowoc. They also said they had evidence Barr left a 6-year-old child unattended in a vehicle February 14th for about an hour in temperatures below freezing without the vehicle running. Oh, that's awful. That's probably, I think that's the car they're looking for. It was sold? Oh, interesting. So I guess the police have it now then, huh? Or interest? Oh, here it says they authorities said the vehicle interest was in the possession of law enforcement. They released pictures of the car. Well, I knew it was a Nissan. I thought it was a Maxima though. Because I used to have a Maxima and it looked like it from far, but they said it's a 97 Nissan Altima. Our interest is not with the current owner. They're interested on focus on any potential camera footage. That's sad they haven't found him. I mean, I think it's obvious that, something bad happened. They probably left him in the car too long or something alone. It's crazy though. And then with the Sebastian Rogers case, I'm in this Facebook group and his stepfather is just commenting on every single post in the group. Like literally, like he's so talkative. He's like just answering everybody's questions and like just having full on conversations with people in the group. Everyone's asking him all kinds of questions and stuff. Uh I don't even know what to think with the Sebastian Rogers case. That video came out. Um, a video came out with these flashlights in the yard, but now I'm hearing that the flashlights it has nothing to do with the case, so I'm just so confused. Yeah, he is sketchy to me too. I don't know why. I just Oh my goodness. The picture of him bound and bruised? No, that's awful. His mom took it. That makes me sick that people are like that for real. I can't. I can't with people like that. Like, why would you? Anyone who can hurt a child is just awful. Awful piece of shit. Okay. Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I think they're a little like strange to me too. I'm not really sure like I don't know. He's just an odd guy, but apparently they're saying that Sebastian's stepfather was working in Memphis. But I am a little bit confused because supposedly he was working at that time, but then when somebody asked him like, "Oh, where were you? Like were you working that night?" And he says, "I can tell you that I was at work for a long time and returned as soon as I could." but I can't tell you the exact dates and times, which I'm like, that's a little weird. But I just it just doesn't make sense to me that this kid just left his house barefoot with a flashlight and they have no scent of him. Especially if you're barefoot, like all your oils in your body are going to be like making a trail outside. For a dog not to be able to pick up on that is strange. But it's just blowing my mind how this kid just completely vanished without a trace. So I'm just very confused about that, really. But anyways, I am gonna call it a night, but we'll definitely uh keep up with this. In 3 more days they have another motion hearing for the Karen Reed case. So what day is that? My calendar coming up. I think I have to do it on this side. I have two. So on Wednesday they have a hearing. That's a good point, Lori. I never thought of that. Maybe he left his phone there and had it. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. That's definitely a possibility. For sure. I mean, if he had like a truck though, I feel like, or something like that, they would probably be able to figure out his GPS. I don't know. Or he said, no, he said he has like a camper or something. I don't know. That's a good point though. It could be. Oh yeah, on Wednesday is the hearing for the Rule 17 motions. So I guess we'll find out if the judge approves these or not. And then the trial, isn't the trial April? Let me see what day it is. I think it's in April. It's almost like April 12th. I could be wrong now. On an article where it says the trial date is set and I can't find it on there. I say a trial date was set and then never mention it in the article. I can't find it. Oh no, this is where it still says March 12th. I think it's set for April. Does anyone know? Thanks, Mark. How are you? Well, I know it's coming up soon, and I'm pretty sure it's in April. My space bar keeps getting stuck when I'm typing, and it's making me sing. April 16th. April 16th is, hey, Queen. What's up? I'm about to end it, actually. Well, hello. It's April 16th, so we'll have to definitely stay on top of it. And on Wednesday is the court hearing for Rule 17, so I'll try and come back Wednesday and go over that, I guess, at night. Thank you. Yes, please hit the thumbs up on your way out and have a good night, everybody. I'll see y'all probably Wednesday night, hopefully. I'll talk to y'all then. Bye.